See, the story of Resident Evil 4's development is a long and storied one, and had 4 different versions that we know of. One of them spawned into a whole new game series, 2 were shown off but never seen again, and the last and final version would be held in consumers' hands.
Resident Evil.
Development for Resident Evil 4 started way back in 1999 when Kamiya started work on a new sequel to the Resident Evil franchise. But you know, Kamiya is always wanting to make something cool and stylish. And this story came out to be something that's very not Resident Evil. The game is about this dude named Tony Redgrave who's supposed to be invincible and very smart because of the G virus. Oh, and he's got this twin named Virgil, and they're sons of Lord Spencer or something. Slow, pre-rendered backgrounds and deliberate camera angles didn't really make Tony look cool, so they went for a real-time rendered backgrounds and dynamic cameras similar to Code Veronica. It was supposed to revolve around this one umbrella facility that's on this island, and took a lot of its architecture and design from Spanish Gothic buildings. The thing is that Shinji Mikami thought the game was good enough to be a whole new franchise and was able to get Capcom to approve of the new IP. See, Resident Evil was so good that it even made whole new game franchises, but still, there wasn't a Resident Evil 4 yet. Production of a new Resident Evil game started again in 2001, this time directed by Hiroshi Shibata. Shibata worked on Resident Evil 3, just worked, and well, a demo was shown off eventually in 2002, when it was announced to be part of the Capcom 5 GameCube exclusive games that Capcom Production Studio 4 was going to make. The good studio? Those 5 games being PN03, Beautiful Joe, Dead Phoenix, Killer 7, and Resident Evil 4. One of those was never really made. In this reveal of Resident Evil 4, Leon Kennedy was shown off to be infiltrating Umbrella headquarters in this castle-like place, and Leon being affected by a version of the T-virus. The game was also shown to have first-person sequences as well. It was supposed to show off how the T-virus first got created. The game had 3D environments, but the thing is that the technology at the time didn't allow for the biggest plot device in the game. The black fog featured in the trailer was too hard to properly animate, so the whole idea was scrapped, but not really completely. A side plot that was to be featured in the game with a female protagonist and her dog was spun off into the game Demento, otherwise known as Haunting Ground in the US. Okay, still there's yet to be a Resident Evil game, so back to the drawing board. And out popped at E3 2003 where Shinji Mikami started the presentation by saying, famously, "Don't pee your pants." This time, the game showed off, it seemed to have more psychological horror elements, almost like something straight out of Konami's Silent Hill series. There were hallucinations, dolls that attacked, and a man chasing you with a hook. What would later be known as the Hookman demo showed off certain gameplay features that would be in the final release of Resident Evil 4. Things like shooting and shaking the thumbstick like crazy, but this version was also scrapped because of technical limitations. Apparently there is also a old school zombie version of Resident Evil 4 with new human-like enemies called Dabamen. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of information about this part as it didn't really get too far into development, but it did mark the departure of longtime series writer Noboru Shujimura and RE3 writer Yoshihisa Kawamura. It's when Shinji Mikami also took the director's chair to get the game made. It would be the game that he would be most remembered for. The new version in Perspective was inspired by Onimusha 3, a game he he said was held back by fixed camera angles. But to go with this change, Mikami realized the normal zombies really wouldn't do. He would need a new enemy that would keep the blood pumping, and so a change was made to do away with the slow, shambling zombies. Yeah, you heard right. No zombies. Well, except maybe Shinji Mikami, as he said that RE4 wouldn't come to any other console, and, well, yeah. So the game of RE4, I mean, oh man, this is a hard one to talk about. As it is very well talked about, it's a game that many people consider as being one of the best games of all time, myself included. I mean, this game is one of the main reasons I really wanted to do the retrospective, that and I really like most of the Resident Evil games. This game caused me to spend many of my summers glued to the TV. I actually make it a thing to replay it once a year. It's such a good game. RE4 is this Frankenstein of ideas. There's so much going on in this one game. It's just, yes. This game is pretty much a send-up of horror, all of it, or maybe most of it. There's probably a genre here that is missing. Of the genres that are in this game, they all feel really tonally different. The beginning of the game, you come into this town and there's this dude. He looks all normal, but oh no, he's crazy. And then all of a sudden there's this crowd outside the door, banging down the door, and you're all like, oh no. It's this Lovecraftian shadow over Innsmouth horror. Come to a foreign countryside village only to find out they're worshipping some kind of weird cult thing, and some just weird and horrific stuff is going on. This first part of the game is played so straight, it's just a great horror game, which is why when people say that RE4 isn't really a good horror game, I just look at them and say, really? Why? Like, have you even played the game recently? The game then progresses to focus on these cultists, and then this guy shows up, and then the game turns a hard left into cheesy, campy horror. The game is almost winking at the camera, saying, yeah, we know this is dumb. Leon plays a stereotypical 80s action hero. He's a completely objective-based hero who spouts one-liners, doesn't smoke, and doesn't fall in love with the female lead, which would be weird, well, for obvious reasons. The game also takes this another turn into this sciencey, militaristic, spyish theme, and the game just does it so efficiently and just effortlessly. There's this soldier who seemed to have walked straight out of some military movie, and also this predator thing shows up, and then there's these lasers. This game is so awesome. The game is just so highly replayable. Beat the game once and the game's like, hey, do you want to beat it again? Well, you can do it with all your weapons from before. There's this really robust economy going on with it, and it does this thing in the background that makes the game not too hard, not too easy. There's this really great Game Maker's Toolkit episode about it. The game is just great. I mean, it's got everything. Action, mystery, suspense, romance? So it's no secret that RE4 is one of my favorite games of all time. But for some of the more hardcore Resident Evil fans, see it as a move away from its survival horror roots. It kind of is. There's more of a focus on interacting with each enemy than there was in previous games. You're expected to kill each enemy and not do the whole avoidance ammo conservation thing. Well, at least on normal mode. Professional mode is a lot more gritty. But to say that RE4 isn't scary when there are some really genuinely terrifying moments, I mean, seriously, anybody who thinks of RE4 as not a horror game really need to play the part in the lab with the barely even speak real Spanish. It's not alone fake Spanish. Oh. They really need to play the part of the game with the regenerators. But, yeah, I know. But a lot of the people see RE4 as a game with, like, marked the downturn of the Resident Evil franchise, but that's only because it's so good. I mean, after packing so much stuff into this game, this one game, where else would Resident Evil go but someplace really stupid? RE4 gained a lot of praise from fans and critics alike. RE4 gained over 20 Game of the Year awards. The GameCube version sold 1.6 million copies, while the PS2 version sold over 2 million. Though the game would later come out on every platform under the sun. Please don't let Mikami know. So much for the Capcom 5, but yeah, at least people got to play this great game. According to Capcom, it's the 4th best-selling title they've had across all consoles. According to Capcom, it's the 4th best-selling titles they've had across all consoles. But I mean, if I have to tell you that this game is popular and well regarded by the world all over, well, Yeah. The thing is, after the success of RE4, Mikami left the franchise. RE4 would be the last Resident Evil game that he was involved with, leaving Capcom Studio 4 and moving a couple doors down to Clover Studios to be the director for the ridiculously unique God Hand. Anyways, 2 years later, another Nintendo title, another Resident Evil game. And so came the launch-ish title of Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles, which was supposed to be a Resident Evil 4 style game, but apparently was changed because they couldn't really, it was too complicated for Wii owners. But then they re-released Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, so yeah. I'm guessing they couldn't really figure it out for a quick release. So we got stuck with an on-rail shooter, and a pretty average one at that. I mean, I guess I'm just bad at these rail shooters, or just I thought this was a quick 3-4 hours. These rail shooters are nice in short little bursts, but I mean, having your arms outstretched for hours on end, it's not really great. Flicking your wrist just to reload is not very good. So mechanically, you shoot your gun thing and things die. You could find weapons and items in the environment and pick them up. And there's like multiple types of shotguns and machine guns, which could be upgraded with the stars you get for being good at the shooty bang bang. Like, look, here's the shotguns that are all named differently. You got a shotgun, assault shotgun, a different shotgun, right? But there are 2 different submachine guns named, well, submachine guns, and the same for the grenade launcher. And yeah, that might seem like a very minor criticism, but I mean, it does really make the gameplay and choosing what loadout you're going to choose at the beginning more complicated. I mean, like, why did they do this? The shooting is okay. You get to occasionally move certain locations throughout the environment, which recaps the events of RE0, RE1, and RE3 for some reason, and also a special extra scenario that takes place in Russia and marks the nail in the coffin against Umbrella as a company. And it's nice to see a remake of those old RE screens. But other than that, I'm not really a huge fan of this game. There's a lot of different things to unlock, side content, new weapons, documents, and all that stuff. The problem is that the game really feels unfair to people who don't have a Wii Zapper, which seems to be a requirement for this for some reason, as it's really hard to aim at many smaller objects when your hand isn't very stable and the camera's wobbling around. There also should be more checkpoints. The game starts off well, but it gets progressively worse. I actually had to put it on easy for a bit, and then after that, it was just much too hard. I didn't have fun. Well, not as much fun as I had with the sequel, Darkside Chronicles, but that is a story for later. Umbrella Chronicles was received positively from critics, citing it as a good on-rail shooter. Apparently, it sold 1.1 million copies, enough for a sequel, so that's cool, I guess. But, I mean, that's that.
A little rough, don't you think? You're not like them?
No. You?
Okay, I have only one very important question. You got a smoke?